everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you may know that one of my favorite subjects to paint, draw, stencil, photograph, sculpt, what have you, is trees. Well, lately I've been a teeny, maybe a lot, addicted to masking fluid. But I've showed you how I use it to mask off objects or the main subject of a piece. Well, how about we mask off the background this time, okay? For this piece, I'll be working on GRAFIX Opaque White Craft Plastic. It cleans back down to the white with virtually no staining, so it's ideal for this. We'll need some alcohol inks, the brand and colors that make you happy. I like to thin mine with isopropyl alcohol in advance in these little needle tip bottles, just for convenience. Some isopropyl alcohol, 91 or 99%. Masking fluid, and a way to apply it. My favorite way is to use a ruling pen. I love this thing. But use what you have. For example, you might have masking fluid in a needle tip applicator like this. That can work well for this too. Now, the other day I was asked by a couple of people if liquid latex is the same as masking fluid. And I looked at the bottle that I have and it looks a lot like masking fluid, goes on like it, smells like it, dries like it, but it's got something else in it that acts like a solvent, because when I tried it like masking fluid, it actually made my alcohol ink bleed and come off. So sadly, it didn't work, and masking fluid is what we need. We'll need a paintbrush or two, a pencil, and if you want to have some extra fun shading later, a blending stump can come in handy. You might also want some copy paper, and if you've got some transfer paper handy, that could help out too, maybe. But I'll explain that part later on. Oh, and a fine liner for a simple way to add details. An ultra fine point Sharpie is a good option too. Now, because this project has quite a few steps, it's broken up into 2 videos. Part 2 will post tomorrow, or if you're watching after the fact, it will be linked on the screen for you at the end, also in the description box, and in the first comment. Okay, let's do this. If you're comfortable drawing, you can certainly make your sketch directly on the GRAFIX craft plastic. This is fairly easy to erase as needed. If you're less at ease and/or you want to be able to try out a few ideas first and then just transfer the one you like best, you can do what I did and sketch your design on a piece of regular copy paper beforehand and then transfer that onto your graphics. In order to transfer your image to the graphics, you've got a couple of options. One is transfer paper. This particular sheet is from the brand Arteza. It's pretty much what we'd otherwise call carbon paper. The pack comes with 60 sheets, which will last you the rest of your natural life. And you'll be able to leave half the pack to your kids in your will, because you can use one sheet over and over again. So seriously, this will go a long, long way. The advantage to transfer paper is that it doesn't make a smudgy mess when you move it around or just lean on it, but it does cost a few dollars. A basically free option is something you may have learned to do in school. Just flip your sketch over and rub some pencil over the back of the lines of your sketch. You're pretty much making carbon paper now. This will work rather decently, but can be a little messier if you're not careful. So just be careful not to smudge it. Okay, so I'm transferring my image onto my graphics. You can tape your image down at the top to keep it from moving while you work, or you can do what I did and wrap it around your graphics, kind of like a little pamphlet. To do my transfer, I'm using a fine point ball stylus just to keep my sketch neat if I want to reuse it. But a regular ballpoint pen works really well for this too. Now, if you do use a stylus, you might have to check now and then just to see if you've missed any lines. Now, I don't have to be super duper precise because these are trees. No line has to be perfect. You kind of gotta love that. For this particular piece, I want my transfer lines a tad dark so that I can easily see them later on. They really won't show in the finished piece when all is said and done, so no need to worry about that. Now that I've got my sketch all transferred, it's time to make my background. I'm going with a purpley blue to teal to yellowish green sort of thing. Kind of like a sky-like situation up top, blending into some pale green sort of, foliage toward the bottom. Yeah, that should work, yeah. Okay, let's go with that. I'm just spreading some ink around until I'm reasonably happy with the results. And the beauty of alcohol ink is, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Yeah, okay. This is okay. I had to remind myself that the background wasn't the main thing here, so let's move on. You'll notice that as I worked on the bottom, I was skipping around. That's because I could really see where the trees were going to be washed away, so I didn't really have to ink up those areas very well because I'm just going to be removing it anyway. So I'm giving the foreground a teeny bit of texture by just pouncing a brush wet with a little thinned green alcohol ink here and there. I'm just kind of dabbing at it. And then, for a little fun, let's throw in a couple of clouds. Just the same brush, now cleaned out, and wet with just isopropyl alcohol. And just sort of making some cloud-like shapes. Okay, yeah, that's looking pretty good. I can go to the next step, the mask. I've got some masking fluid here in this little silicone cup, my ruling pen, and some paper on which to rest my hand as needed so I don't get oils on the painting. It makes the masking fluid a little temperamental. Now, I'm using my ruling pen to apply the masking fluid because I love this tool. But if you've got something you're equally comfortable using, use that. Now, if you're not familiar with a ruling pen, check out the video I'm linking at the top now and in the description box for you below. In that video, I go into detail about the ruling pen and how it works and how to use it and all that good stuff. Okay, so the goal here is to mask off the background of the painting. I know that might sound weird, but we don't want blue trees. I mean, that could be awesome for some things, but it's not the plan for today, so we're not protecting the trees. I'm trying to get the borders of the trees nicely defined, and I'm trying my best to make sure I don't miss a spot with the masking fluid. I want to cover every speck of the background. Now, as I've said in previous videos, when it comes to masking fluid, if you're not sure you got a spot, it's better to put more on than less. Now, not more all at once. Like, you don't want to flood the area because it'll just take forever to dry. And also, it doesn't dry as well. So the best way to do like a repair, if you will, or adding a little bit later, is to let your first thin layer dry and then gently float some more on top where needed in spots that you think you missed. Okay, when that's all done, and I've double checked that I got every little spot, it's time to let the mask dry totally. Totally. I say that in every masking fluid video because it's really important. It's got to be bone dry. It'll still be sticky, but it's got to be dry. Alrighty, my mask is nice and dry. And with a little clear tape, I've made some tabs on the corners of the piece just to help me hold it because I can't really touch the mask and grab it to move the piece around as I'm working because, like I said, it's sticky even when it's dry, and so it might attach to my fingers and I might accidentally pull some up, so we don't want that. Now, to wash our trees clean, I'm using 99% isopropyl alcohol. 91% works too. 99 is just a teensy bit stronger. And all I'm doing is simply dripping some down the painting. I always love doing this part because you get to see your plan coming to life. Now, as long as you don't scratch into your mask or really rub on it, it will not budge. So have at it, washing away whatever you need. To help push some ink out of the way, a soft, flat edge brush is really safe to use. If you don't push down hard with the brush, you can dab away fairly comfortably without disturbing your mask and move ink away with as much as you need. It kind of saves on alcohol and kind of helps you do a little scrubbing here and there as needed. Now you might be thinking, wait, why didn't she just mask off the trees first and then put in the background? Then the trees would be white when she peeled off the mask, right? True, but doing it this way, having masked the background, I'm now going to be able to play all I want with my trees without disturbing my background as I do it. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Again, I don't need to be perfect here and get every speck of color out. So, my trees just need to be basically all white. But if there's a little bit of blue here or there, don't kill yourself. I can start adding the color I do want, which is really gray. So not really a color, but you know what I mean. All right, let's gray up these trees. So initially, I was just going to dab in some gray like this. And this could have worked just fine. But then I had a, kooky idea. I get those sometimes, and sometimes they work out well. So let's see where this one takes us, shall we? I mean, it's just a little ink and a little piece of graphics, plastic. Well, what could go wrong? So remember, the mask is still in place on the background right now. So I decided to drip gray ink down the trees this way. Now, gray ink and occasionally a little bit of alcohol to streak it. And then eventually, to make life easier, I thinned some of the gray ink with some alcohol in a needle tip bottle, and I dripped it that way. Now, if you do this, you don't need to go as dark as I did. Actually, staying much lighter will look more like a real birch tree. But, you know, I have this thing for making alien foliage. like life forms that would grow on another planet. So I went a little darker. Now, I tried to make sure that each tree had its own gray lines. So like if I had a drip starting on one tree, I didn't want it to continue onto the next tree because then it would look like a pattern that was just placed onto these trees. You know, I hope this is making sense. I wanted each tree to have its own individual lines. And I also didn't want two branches that were right next to each other to have a line that started on one and then continued on the next one. So I kind of moved the bottle and my drips accordingly so that each thing had its own look. I hope all that made some sense. Now, when all that was done, I let everything dry completely, once again. And right now, this looks terrifying and all kinds of horrible and ruined. But let's see how it turned out, because I think it's going to be kind of cool. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's rub off the mask. Okay, so far so good, you guys. It is looking how I'd imagined. A little more rubbing and revealing, and you know, this is working out. Here and there are tiny little boo-boos. I'm not sure, maybe there were like blips in the mask, or I'm not sure what happened, but those are going to be easy to hide later on. By the way, if you find there are tiny bits of mask that don't seem to want to come up, just wad up some of the stuff that you've already rubbed off and then use that wad to rub away the stubborn little spots. It works like a charm. Alrighty, we're going to end part one with just defining our trees a little bit. For that, I'm using a black fine liner. My favorite for this is a Sakura Micro Perm because it dries instantly, so it doesn't smudge at all. An ultra fine point Sharpie is also a very inexpensive alternative that works well. Now I'm going to assume that the sun is on the right and low in the sky, so I'll draw my fine liner lines just on the left of every branch. Now you'll see that already the trees start to pop off the page a little, but tune in tomorrow for the truly 3D effects we'll give these trees. You won't believe your eyes, especially when you see how easy it is to do. Okay? So go let your creative natures shine. See you tomorrow. Bye now.